everyone. Welcome to the next in our series of Meet the Vendor, where we get to meet software companies from all over the world who get to tell us about their amazing software and how it can extend the capabilities of the Atlassian platform. And today I've got Alberto and Julia from Railsware, and they're going to tell us about Smart Checklist. Yeah, welcome, Alberto and Julia. And yes, good evening.
Good morning, Michael. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good evening, us. As you know, we are in Latin America, although the whole team is in Europe, but we are in Latin America. So. Perfect. So, as we mentioned, we have this add-on on the Atlassian Marketplace for Jira, and it's called the Smart Checklist. As the name itself is include what we are a checklist, and through time you will see that we have included many different features because we have built this through the feedback of people, and we really believe that companies need this add-on. And one thing that not many people know about us is that we are part of a bigger company called Railsware. And we are a product studio, so we build software. The company has been doing this for more than a decade, and we have launched different products. Among them, there's Coupler, which is data integration tool to sync information, Mailtrap, which is a tool designed to test emails, and on the Atlassian side, the Smart Checklist. We also do consultation, and one of the biggest projects that we have helped build is Calendly, which is a tool for online appointment scheduling. And we have here a cool testimonial from a head of engineering at Atlassian. And one thing that, or how could I put it? The way we started the add-on is because the company, while building software, we were using Trello, and Trello is very widely known as well. As a matter of fact, it's part of the same group. And when you're using Trello, it's you really don't think because you use checklists. They have this built-in checklist, and you don't think about it, you just use it. But when we moved to Jira, we found that there was no checklist. What we had was the subtasks, and as it happened with us, many other companies were struggling with subtasks, and that's why we say that Jira is not perfect. The subtasks sometimes really don't fulfill the needs of project manager, and so we created our own checklist. At the beginning, it was for our personal use and for us, but we quickly understood that many other companies have had the same needs. And for example, when you have a process and you want to keep quality, it is really annoying to keep on building the same checklist and the project. So one of the problems was that repetitive tasks needed to be recreated. Other things, because we created this through feedback from different companies, is that people forget things, the project or the processes become a bit inefficient, so they can't follow really a process they can see. Then the collaboration is not easy because progress is not visible for the teams. And as I have put here, tracking progress requires searching through different boards, so you have to go out of the board, come inside the board, and this is actually not efficient. So the Smart Checklist is a productivity and an efficiency tool. That how can it help your clients? How can we make their lives better? Well, we save time because but then it's not just a checklist. You have the capability of creating templates for repetitive processes. And we're going to see some use cases, but a couple of them are, for example, acceptance criteria, definition of done. These are widely known processes. So the companies that are using smart checklist will save time. It also removes rework, so it will be easier and quicker. You can expedite producing. It improves visibility, and improving visibility and boosting teamwork. This goes by hand, because cross-team progress is visible from the ticket, and it helps people understand who's doing what at the moment.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I have some, let's say, flashbacks. I worked as a project manager for some years, and like all these problems that you mentioned now, like you're not sure who is doing what is the status of the things. It really hurts even to hear that. And when you see like all the plan and all the steps with the completion picture there, so it's much better experience.
Exactly. This is collaborative, efficiency, productivity, and actually we created this for a specific use. We are more familiar, for example, with software teams, but companies started using this checklist for many other different use cases. In the case of software teams, these are one of the main processes, which they are acceptance criteria, definition of done, quality test cases, implementation plans, and there are other processes, for example, with recruitment, for example, with onboarding and offboarding. Financial teams also use them for salary payments, operations, perhaps with, for example, with procurement teams. They have a specific process, and exactly. And some other teams, for example, support with their service desk for recurring tickets. If they have a specific process, well, they can use smart checklist. Consulting project. If the company is doing consulting, they may have a specific process for that, and also DevOps. So this is the reason.
Alberto, I have a bit of a saying when it comes to Atlassian and Jira. It's every function in every team, because every team needs to organize their work. They're always looking to prioritize. They're generally doing some type of business as usual with recurring tasks, and they're doing projects and things like that. It doesn't matter what team. And the ability to set a very granular sort of component of your process. And this just gives us another way to be able to clearly specify what's required to be done on these processes. And if we've got repetition, it gives us the opportunity to to template and just reuse. So saving time and money and accuracy and rework and etc. It's good stuff.
As for example, we may think, I don't know, we of course this is not the case, but we may use it as a recipe. And a recipe for what? For example, a recipe for building software, right? It is not about only like 10 items. There are teams that use like more than 50 items on their checklist. So redoing this would be, I would say, a waste of time, right? So we are talking about the way teams use the checklist actually really turns the process very efficient. Well, now
you're ticking the boxes on the process. It's it makes it much easier to have process compliance when you've got to tick a box. So it's you got to check.
Exactly. Our tagline actually is break down tasks, unload your mind, because when you have an idea or a project, you first unload your mind into a checklist, then you can organize them. And actually, I would say that, as they say, why tell when you can show? So I would say that if Julia starts walking us through the tool, it would be more clear. for us. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and perhaps Julia can.
Sure. Let me continue from here. Yeah, and like what companies are doing with our tool, like it helps to enforce internal standards. Like let's say you have some processes defined, and when you template them, when you automate all this, all the processes, it's like it's no longer your burden to see that everyone follows the standards that that your company has. Like it's offloaded to the tool. So all right. Here I have a sample project for us to play with, and this is how our empty checklist looks like. So you can easily add items one by one here. Like I'm pressing enter right now. 2 items, etc. So it's like it's pretty easy if you are putting down your own to do. Like just go and put it this way. Then each item has its own status, which is helpful to understand like what's going on there. And we have some default statuses, like boring to do in progress done. And you can also add your custom statuses, and this is helpful because you can use your own flow. For example, like for the items that are in review, it's not a default status, but I know that some of the teams use this status to, like if they need to wait for some feedback or if they need some approval on some item. So custom statuses help with it. And for example, if some item is done, you can either click here or you can mark as done here, and you can hide the completed items. Well, so this is similar to a Jira default features. Then templates. Oh, I love the templates. I will talk a lot about them. So you can import some data from a template internally. So let's say we have the template. Actually, let's use this one, the demo. So it will append the checklist items. Yes, please. Yeah. And with the items, like you can reorder them by drag and drop. You can edit them from here. You can delete them if you want to. So like a lot of a lot of stuff that you can do with them. And you can, if sometimes I know it happens, you work on a checklist and you understand, so this thing that was supposed to be a small one, it takes longer and it doesn't look like a checklist item anymore. It deserves its separate Jira task or Jira subtask depending on your flow, and so you can convert it easily to, let's say, to a separate Jira issue. By default, it will create in the same project. Create. And you see, so the item was marked as complete because you are no longer dealing with it here within the checklist, but you will deal with it as a separate Jira task. So this is very handy. One more feature that I love is the full screen editor, and this is helpful if you want to add a lot of items at once. So it's much more easier to work from here. If you are more comfortable using the Markdown formatting, then it's also easier to do in this full screen editor. And one more hidden feature, if you want to share the checklist with someone else, you can just copy paste it from here, like send via Slack or whatever tool you're using, and it's an easy way to copy it. And you can see like the checklist, it has some additional features. So you can tag a user here. So I can tag Beto here if I wanted to do him something. There are due dates. There is different formatting supported. So it's helpful if you want to group some parts of your checklist into separate items. And here you can add links, you can add media like images, etc. And one feature that I find useful is this progress. So if I check some of the items, you can see the progress bar is moving, and it's helpful to see like the overall progress of the issue. And if you want to see overview of the tickets on your board, if you want to see the status. So you can also see the progress here, like 4 out of 16, 0 out of 1. So it's helpful, let's say, I know you're a Scrum Master or you're a project manager and you're doing an overview of your sprint board, and it's helpful to understand like where are you on time, is something stuck there, by checking the status of the checklists. So yeah, questions?
No, I was just commenting, that's lots of really useful features, and I can see how it's sort of, yeah, it sort of fits that gap with the subtask, and then the fact that you can just create tickets if you need to. That's really cool. Lots of really useful features.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we noticed with subtask, like, yeah, you can create several ones per your ticket, but if you need to review them, you need to open each one in the new window, or you need to click each of them to see the details. Whereas with the checklist, it's like all in one screen, and it's much easier to work with it. Of course, if you need like as we created here as a separate ticket, like in some cases checklist is not sufficient, such a checklist item, so you are creating subtasks or separate tasks, but this is for some other purposes. Yeah, so getting back to the templates, what we have here, we have project templates and global templates, and the reason of this is that some templates you do not want to share them with all your team members. For example, some finance templates, you want only finance people to have access to them. Or if you have some client's project here and only certain people have access to this client's project, then it would be a project template. So this is like permission issue. So it's visible only within this project or projects for which you make it visible. And opposite of that, we have global templates. They are like system-wide. Anyone who has access to checklist to Jira can use them. And so as we did previously, you can apply template manually, but the power of the tool is that you can do this automatically. So you can apply the templates automatically, and let me show you what we have there. So this is our settings page. This is the list of my templates, and I will now look for template for onboarding. So we have certain criteria which can be used to automate the assignment of those templates. So here we have the template itself. You can also edit it from here. We can configure for which project the template is visible, and we can then set the trigger and other criteria that we want to use. For example, in this case, the template would be applied each time when an issue is created if this issue matches the criteria we have two criteria here. The first is the summary, if the summary contains the keyword last name, and if the issue type is onboarding, then a template will be applied. And you can combine here a lot of criteria. So let's see, we are creating an issue with the onboarding type and say last name Smith. So we have our keyword, we have our issue type, and we are creating an issue which is our trigger. So here it is. Let's go into the details. And the template was applied on issue creation. And this is quite a simple automation case. And what we saw in our many customers use cases, like on issue creation, if each issue matches certain criteria, then the checklist is applied. Then I would like to show a few more advanced features. Like, again, this is power of automation, and this is something awesome. The first one is the integration with the Jira automation tool. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with it. Let's say this is the first choice when people start to use advanced automation for their workflows and other stuff. So here we have a simple rule. So each time an issue is transitioned from backlog to in progress, we want to append to checklist items. And here, like we made it possible to integrate with our checklist, so you can refer to our here we're using the issue property. So in this case, we are preserving the original checklist, and each time the issue is transitioned to in progress, from backlog to in progress, these two items would be appended. This is helpful. For example, we have some support ticket, and when a support engineer transitions the issue to the engineering team, there are some steps that must be accomplished at the next workflow stage. So this is one of the examples where it can be handy. So let's move our issue from backlog to in progress and see what happens. Yep, so these two items were appended here automatically. Again, so this is helpful when you move the issue from one department to another department, or from one responsibility to another responsibility, and something has to be added. And another tool with which we are also integratable is the Jira MISC workflow extensions. Oh yeah, this is me. And this is also like from what we're seeing in our customers' cases. So it's also widely used, and people use, like, besides checklist, people use it a lot to automate their workflows, to create some advanced rule when transitioning issues. And like here we have very simple workflow. I've seen customers that had like 20 different steps here with very complex logic. So yeah, in this case, we will modify the checklist when an issue is transitioned to backlog from any other status. So we have post functions here, and you can also refer to our checklist and those post functions. And in this case, like each time we are moving an issue from any status to backlog, like say back to backlog, we will clean up the checklist. And this is also helpful. Let's say you started to work on something, you put some notes or some checklists were added automatically, but then you stop working, you move it back to backlog, and whatever you had there in the checklist is no longer relevant. So it makes sense just to clean it up. So let's see how it works in practice. So let's move this one back to backlog status. Yep, so it was cleaned up. One more.
Go on, Jill.
Yeah, so basically we see that companies, as I mentioned, or processes sometimes get lost. Quality is not the main, to keep quality of processes, a checklist is essential, and perhaps the companies you work with and that working with projects would use this as an essential tool, right?
Yeah.
Sorry if that was directed at me. Yeah, I think a lot of organizations do struggle with organizing all of the steps of their processes, and there's a variety of ways to do it. And if there's any tools that allow us to do it easier, or with just more flexibility, it's another option, it's another way, and it's going to suit certain teams and certain ways of operating down to a T.
Yeah, and I've seen like very, very interesting setups, like especially bigger companies, they base the automation, including checklist, on the tags that are in the ticket, on the components that are in the tickets, on very, very big amount of the parameters that the Jira ticket can have. And for example, there are even some automations, like when you some tickets automatically transfer between the projects, because it goes from one department to another, for example. And there are like crazy rules like to follow, and like all stuff is automated and based on I mean, so much setup, and the automation, it takes into the account a lot of different parameters, and there are like 10 or 20 different options which exactly automation will work based on the initial data. So I don't know how the guys debug all those workflows. It must be really hard if something doesn't work correctly because of the complex setup. But yeah, people are doing amazing setup and amazing automation of very complex processes. All right, so I wanted to show you the one more application of the checklist, which is customer portal. So I mentioned already support issues a few times, and this is actually a feature that we released quite recently, the integration with the customer portal. So you can opt out or opt in to show it on the customer portal. And let me open a sample request. So this helps with the transparency in the support processes. So let's say I have submitted a support ticket, and I can see what is happening with my issue exactly. So there is a checklist, and when an agent, the support agent, when they update something, the end user, the submitter of the support request, they would also see the progress. So issue is reproduced, okay, it's done. So the support team has reproduced the issue, they have escalated it to the team. So there is even no need to put some comments here. So as the end user, I will transparently see what's going on with the ticket. And like, like these, there are many cases when customers are impatient and they want some progress, and you don't have anything particular to report, but here it could help to see the status of the request. So checklist is visible both to the end user and to the agent. And here I like, let me open this CR15. There is one more automation that I like. And this also helps to make things faster. So this is the agent's view, and like as in all other Jira projects, the checklist is shown here. So if I complete all the items here, the issue would go to done automatically. Let me refresh it. So it's completed. So it's for well-defined processes. If you complete everything that you had in the checklist, it will be closed automatically, and same like the end user will also see that everything is done and the issue is completed.
Interesting. There we go. Yeah, and the transparency with end users, I think, is an important thing. Can you separate with permissions? So you can have two separate checklists. You've got one that you're going to expose to the customer and one that's just going to be exposed internally.
Oh, this is interesting idea. No, not at the moment. So at the moment, there is only one checklist that is visible. Yeah, but you can configure, like in some cases, okay, you can decide that you do not want to show this checklist to anyone, so you can configure some custom permission so it's visible only to the agent or only to some segment of the agents who have access to the issue.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's very cool. I think it's pretty self-evident how this fits, where it fits. Yeah, every team, every function needs to organize their work, and yeah, the quality improves when you have a more specified process, and the better it's specified and the easier it is for the team to follow, then yeah, your speed and quality are going to improve. It's just how it's going to be. So look, that was very interesting. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I can show one more thingy before we finish. So one feature, and why I'm showing it because it's quite popular. So this is for you if you're a support agent or if you're a software developer or whatever. So you can see all your assigned items in one place. So this is like if you want to start your day and to understand what you're working on. This is very helpful, and this feature is pretty much popular among the customers. So yeah, focus on what should be done, and don't wander through all the boards to find out what should be done next.
Yeah, find all those little lost subtasks. Here they are, they're in a checklist.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this covers the basic functionality. I can talk about it like 4 hours, but I will not, I promise.
Well, I think
so,
we're a little bit nerdy when it comes to yeah, just how powerful these tools are that we work with, and we can see the impact that it makes to organizations and how they perform their work. And as you said, some of them go to town and do some really complicated things that possibly overcomplicated. But yeah, if the tools are well managed and well developed, they're just such a game changer for organizations. So yeah, thanks very much, Alberto and Julia, for joining us and showing us smart checklists. Because yeah, I think it's going to be a massive value for anyone who wants to take it up. And I think we're not using it. We should be. I'm going to get it organized into our environment. We'll see how that goes from there. So thanks very much for joining us today.